with Mr. Nine.
That's me. Are we going?
Okay, I'm going to tell a story with me and
Hello.
him.
I am living my dream. Yes, indeed. So, my last year of high school, and to put this in context, it was 1969. In the spring semester, my art teacher, Jack Frost from Snowflake, Arizona, an awesome guy teaching at Mitchell High School, gave a pottery demo. And myself and a couple of other people were just like, this is the coolest thing to do. So the main medium I work in is clay, obviously. I mean, I go through so much clay. I have mud under my fingernails daily. I work out here every single day. And when I'm not out here, I will be in the other building practicing or rehearsing as a drummer, which I also started early. So when I started doing pottery, I was 17. When I started playing drums, I was 13. I still do both things with a passion. I tell people I grew up being able to do what I did as a kid, hit things with sticks and play in the mud. And it almost happens every single day. I do some drawing.
This is a portrait of my
I used to do a lot more drawing and visual 2D art, but that's kind of, someday I'll be back to it.
When I was, 5 years old, we would always paint together and we'd make these giant abstract pieces. He would kind of start it and then we'd both add colors to it and do like hand paintings. And some of those paintings are now in the Lyman Museum, which is really cool. And some people use them for like CD art and stuff. So we'd always make art together. It was a huge way that we bonded together. Just get like a giant canvas with paint and just like make stuff. It's awesome. Or making pottery together. We definitely did that. He taught me how to do it. We have a bunch of pictures of me. And I thought that that's what I was gonna do with my life. And then I didn't, but it was really fun.
So when I started doing pottery, when I started becoming a young adult, I did visualize what it would be to be involved in something physical for the rest of my life. I couldn't imagine being in an office. So that was good. I wanted something that would blow my mind from time to time, let me expand. There it was, music, pottery, both of them.
Seeing him and my mom both be so creative around me, it has made me realize that I can make that into a career, when a lot of people I think would see that as just being a hobby and there wouldn't really be a way out of it, or it'd be way too hard to do it, so you'd pursue engineering or something. My parents would have been terrified if I said I wanted to be an engineer. I actually said for a while I wanted to be an accountant, and I took it to my what do they call them? Guidance counselor in high school, and she was like, wow, this seems like a real switch. And I brought it up to my parents and they were like, oh honey, you okay? Like, are you sure about this? And then I realized that I had no idea why I wanted to do that.
I wake up, we walk the dogs, we work here, we live here, we love here, we produce here, we make our art here. I have to be paid to leave, so I get paid to go into town to play jobs, and that's why I leave.
The Randys, the great Randys.
So, yeah, rehearsal space, practice space, space to it's experimental space.
I would go to Cedars because it was pretty much the only place to hear this music. And I went there and I remember going there the first time. It was really strange because it was like I walked in and I'd never seen anything like it before. I walked in and they were playing like a tune, like a standard. And Randy was there, but he just had like a drum set like nothing I'd ever seen before, where it was just like a bass drum sitting on these big legs, so that the bass drum itself was like flat, like a tabletop. And then all these little instruments and cymbals, and he was just playing, standing barefoot, with his boots. He had like very comfortable boots. I don't know if they were Ugg boots, but I remember them as Ugg boots is what Randy wore. And they were to the side, and he was just standing there playing barefoot. And I was like, this is the wildest thing I've ever seen. I didn't know you could do that. Like, who knew that you could actually just do that? Like, he's just shown up with this thing, and it's like a contraption, and it's not really a drum set, but he's just like playing like jazz music on it.
Which will sound more like most of the scary movies. Angels Gone Bad. So, spraying out of a truck. Kind of a cool sound. But it's really heavy, and if you set it down, but if you stick it on styrofoam, that's magic. Woo! That's all I got to say.
My dad has an optimistic curiosity that I am obsessed with. It's like my favorite thing. Whenever I'm feeling down about what I'm doing, or I'm feeling like I'm falling into a routine too much of what I'm doing artistically or anything, I think back to what his mindset would be in this. And it's like, it instantly makes me go, what if I explore something else? And I have a super open mind because of my dad. So I think his open-mindedness and excitement for trying new things and being able to experience anything and just go with the flow has been my favorite thing.
When I create a piece, I think it's driven from something inside. So much of pottery is, how is it going to be used? So I do think, I go, when I'm making a handle, what's that handle going to feel like? I want it to be comfortable. I want somebody to open their cabinet and go, ooh, this is the one I want, and pick that mug, you know? I continue making art because I can't help it to start with, but every kiln I open is like opening a gift. You don't know what's going to happen. You create conditions hoping for something, and a lot of times it's there, but there's always one gem of a piece that comes out, and that's the drug that keeps you coming back.
The way I got named, it's funny because people take months or years of knowing me before they connect it. Every time somebody is like, Clay, oh, that's why. It's always such a funny moment. They definitely named me that. For the first 3 months I was unnamed, so I was just Baby Boy Bowen for a long time. And then they came up with, my name. I don't think this was part of the plan. They never planned. I don't even think they had Clayton or Clay on the list. And then walking around the studio one day, no, I don't know, actually. If that was the story, I'd love that to be the story. They're walking through the studio and they're like, Clay, and I have an idea. Shannon! I don't think that happened. But yeah, I'm named Clay, and I am around Clay a lot. It made growing up a little bit confusing, hearing about clay orders and everything.
So, pottery, probably any ceramic thing, is very process-oriented. Somebody's got to dig up the clay. I don't do that. I buy it in bags. You got to mix it into something usable. You got to dry it and fire it. You got to glaze it if it's going to be glazed, and you got to be able to fire it. So there's this whole line of things that once you engage, you're in for a while. There's glazes that I used at UCCS when there was a ceramics department. So get raw materials, put it together, and I do it in these these buckets on wheels, and that way I can dip pots, and it makes it a little more convenient.
Between Randy and Alan, it was just this like pushing of boundaries. For me, the big thing that I have from growing up and the big influence, again, and I know I already talked about them, but it was this combination of Randy and Alan Joseph. And it's like, you know, spending so much time with them. And then when Alan passed away in 2018, it was just this whole weird thing of like, you know, having to get used to that and realizing, you know, well, that won't be a hang that happens anymore.
There's a piece I made that I love this piece because a friend came over, a guitar player, came over to the house, and I happened to have my roll of butcher paper and my India ink and a big fat brush, and I said, Alan, go sit there. I'm going to do a quick gesture drawing. It's about this big. I just took about 20 seconds, maybe 30. And when I was done, I went, dang, this looks like him. And it was just a great piece. And I've had it in my barn for years. Well, a couple years ago, Alan suddenly died. And I gave it to his wife, who framed it. And it's just this really beautiful thing. And it's kind of meaningful. There's a connection between he and I, he and his wife, me, and, you know, it's just a wonderful thing. We had a sax player, bass player, myself and Alan. H3O was the band. Thought, oh man, we're all in town. We should go throw his ashes to the wind somewhere. Well, we couldn't organize. So Jaina asked if he could be in our pet cemetery, which I was like, I'm honored. So that would be, you know, you should see it. It's out in the yard. But anyway.
Do you want
Twinsies.
Twinsies.
Doesn't take much. Okay, you guys. So Alan and I met, I was probably mid-20s. We started playing together. Oh wait, yeah, one's for him. And we played every place in this town you could imagine. And a lot of really horrible jobs and some great jobs. Played the Pikes Peak Center with some couple of famous people, Fine Art Center, played up in Denver, warming up some great people. Alan Holsworth was one of them. And he dropped dead. So, anyway, Alan gets his first. Yeah, hit it. To Alan.
To Alan. Cheers.
Yeah.
So I was homeschooled until 8th grade, and my dad was my math teacher. And he realized through his drumming lessons that the best way to teach is to have them teach to you and then realize what they don't know while they're teaching it. So he created this character, Mr. Know Nothing.
That's me.
And I would have to teach him all of the math that I was learning, and it was super helpful. And one day he got to Mr. 9 after upgrade, you know, Mr. 1 and Mr. 2, because he was learning. So he wasn't Mr. Know Nothing anything anymore. By the time he was Mr. 9, I guess we kind of capped out. But my dad created this character named Mr. 9, and I would make him lesson plans, and I'd basically be his teacher. And then he became like a alter ego that my dad had that was just like such a fun friend to have. So one year I was like, I'm gonna throw this character a birthday party. And so I took all the elements of all these things that we had joked about, where he lives on a bus and he does all these things, and I put them together into this big birthday party, and I made videos for it, and I made like a whole adventure thing. My dad is a positive role model, an encourager, and just a curious and fun person to be around for so many people. So many people. I've known his drum students, his friends from high school have visited here, and everybody tells me how much they look up to him as somebody who has allowed them to find themselves or find a passion or just have a really fun life. And I can say that's true for me too.
I find that every day, again, is an opportunity to expand. And you realize really quickly when you're involved in something like this, and it's not just pottery, it's like any endeavor. It could be plumbing, it could be, farming, but you'll never get there. You'll never get to an end. And as long as you still love what that is, you always want that next thing. You always want to go, where else can it take me? And it never fails. It'll take you somewhere.
Okay. Once there was a peacock. His name was Squiggles.
And Squiggles, he lived outside in a beautiful yard, kind of like that one out there. See it?
And in his yard, he had a chicken farm. And he gathered the eggs to eat, and the farmer never knew where the eggs went. Every day he'd look, and then the eggs were gone, and he'd see the chickens acting like and he'd seen earlier that day, he'd seen the chickens trying to lay eggs, so he never knew where the eggs went.
So he started looking around, and he looked under the rhinoceros. Says, any eggs there? No eggs there. And then he went, oh, this is an egg. Oh no, it's a ball. And then he looked in a basket, because a lot of times eggs are in baskets. He put it in the light so he could see. And he thought, oh no, those aren't eggs, but they could have been. So he kept wandering around the whole house and the yard looking for his eggs. When he walked into another room and thought, who needs eggs when you have beautiful flowers like this?